It was Lent, 1960. The final weeks before Easter, the period when, according to Greek Orthodox tradition, suffering is meant to be contemplated, grief is meant to be felt, and silence carries the weight of a prayer. In a small apartment in Island Park, Long Island, a Greek woman named Pagona Catsounis knelt before an icon she had received as a wedding gift from a nun in Greece. It was a lithograph of the Virgin Mary, printed paper in a simple wooden frame, the most common image in Greek Orthodox homes around the world. Pagona had prayed before it hundreds of times. But on the night of March 16, 1960, something was different. A tear ran down the face of the Virgin Mary, from the left eye, moving down the painted cheek, slow and precise, the way raindrops slide down glass. Pagona froze. She called her husband. She called the neighbors. She called the priest of the local Greek community. The news spread at the speed that only impossible things can travel. Within days, hundreds of people were crowding the hallway outside Pagona's apartment, waiting their turn to enter and see for themselves. The line wrapped around the block, children held in the arms of mothers praying in low voices, elderly men and women with rosaries in weathered hands. Journalists with cameras and expressions caught somewhere between skepticism and discomfort. All of them seeing the same thing, a face printed on paper with moisture at the eyes, running in a continuous line down the Madonna's cheek. Archbishop Iakovos of the Greek Orthodox Archdiocese of America was in New York that week. He did not send a representative. He went himself. He examined the icon. He was silent for a long time. Then he ordered the image transferred to the Cathedral of St. Paul in Hempstead, where it could be observed under more controlled conditions, and where the faithful wouldn't have to crowd into a 2-bedroom apartment to witness the inexplicable. Samples of the fluid were collected and sent to the New York Testing Laboratories, one of New York's most respected independent analysis institutes. The results arrived days later. The fluid was oily in nature. It contained minimal traces of chloride. Its composition did not correspond to human tears, which are aqueous saline solutions with specific proteins, lysozyme, lipocalin, lactoferrin. The icon's fluid was none of those things. But it was also not any identifiable substance that technicians could classify with certainty within their standard protocols. In other words, the laboratory didn't know what it was. 4 weeks later, on April 12, 1960, 6 kilometers from Pagona's apartment, a second woman went pale. Antonia Koulis, a resident of Oceanside, Long Island, had recently acquired a lithograph of the image known as Panagia Portraitissa, the holder of portraits, one of the oldest and most venerated representations of the Virgin Mary in the Orthodox tradition. The image had come from a common religious bookstore. Antonia had hung it on her living room wall. And then, on a Wednesday afternoon, she noticed what was on the image's face. The eyes were wet, the same oily fluid, the same trace running down the cheek, the same stunned silence. A priest was called, then the president of the parish council, then, once again, Archbishop Iakovos, who this time did not hesitate. He ordered the second icon immediately brought to the Cathedral of St. Paul to be placed beside the first. It was Holy Thursday, April 14, 1960, the day when Greek Orthodox tradition commemorates the last night of Jesus Christ before the crucifixion. 2 icons, 2 apartments, 2 women who didn't know each other, the same week, the same city, the same inexplicable fluid running down the same painted eyes. Thousands of people went to the cathedral. The line to enter the nave and see the 2 icons side by side lasted hours. Some witnesses reported seeing the eyes move. Others said they smelled flowers, with no identifiable source. Several people described physical sensations they called warmth, tingling, or a sudden and irrepressible urge to cry without knowing why. And here is where the story becomes complicated in interesting ways. Science has explanations for icons that weep. The most widely accepted involves capillary action, the same principle that draws water up through the stem of a plant against gravity. Oil-based pigments used in lithographs and hand-painted icons can absorb moisture from the surrounding environment. Under conditions of elevated humidity and temperature variation, exactly the conditions in an apartment full of breathing people in March, that oil can be pushed to the surface of the paper or wood by capillary pressure differentials, accumulating in areas of greater texture, like the hollows around the eyes, like the fine grooves beside the lids. It's an explanation. It's plausible. It's physics. But it doesn't fully explain the 1960 case, because the fluid collected and analyzed by the New York testing laboratories was not simply condensed moisture. It had a distinct oily composition, and if it were merely the capillary action of lithographic oil, it would be expected to appear across other areas of the paper, the hands, the mantle, the edges of the image. The technicians who examined the icon did not report that. The fluid emerged specifically from the eyes. Beyond that, the two icons were of different types. Pagona's was a lithograph, a graphic print on paper. Antonia's was a decorative lithogravure. Different materials, different manufacturing processes, different ages, acquired in different places. Both produced the same phenomenon in the same metropolitan area 27 days apart. The statistics of coincidence begin to accumulate. There is a detail that most 1960 reports did not mention, but which researchers who studied the case in subsequent decades found significant. The Cathedral of St. Paul in Hempstead, where both icons were housed, still exists today, and Pagona Catsounis' original icon, now enclosed in glass inside the cathedral, has been documented as producing fluid on other occasions across the decades. The most recent documented instance was in 2008, when an icon of St. Nicholas in the same cathedral began producing a clear, sweet-smelling liquid during the celebration of the Divine Liturgy. Bishops filmed it. Laboratories were consulted. The fluid was oily. The composition was unusual. 65 years after the first episode, the cathedral still receives pilgrims who come specifically because of that March 1960 icon. There is a dimension to this story that goes beyond chemistry and physics. In all the traditions of Christian East, Greece, Russia, Ethiopia, Serbia, Armenia, icons that weep are understood not as aberrations, but as language, as inert matter participating, in some way, in something that Western rationality lacks adequate words to describe. Not magic, not a trick. In that cosmology, it is the border between the visible and the invisible becoming momentarily permeable. Pagona Catsounis died years later, having given very few interviews. She never sought fame from what she had seen. No book. No television appearances. In one of the few statements she gave to journalists at the time, she said something simple in a mixture of broken English and Greek. I was praying. She was sad. She cried. No laboratory managed to fully refute that. And no laboratory explained why the fluid stopped in both icons exactly when Orthodox Easter arrived.